The United States is actually a huge business. And it reminds me a bit of the type of activist investments we've taken on over time, where this really, really great business has kind of lost its way. And with the right leadership, we can fix it. I said, look, it's a great thing that we have a businessman as president. And in my lifetime, it's really the first businessman, as opposed to, I mean, maybe Bush to some degree was a business person. But I thought, okay, I always wanted the CEO to be CEO of America. And now we have Trump. I said, look, he's got some personal qualities that seem less ideal, but he's going to be president of the United States. He's going to rise to the occasion. This is going to be his legacy. And he knows how to make deals. And he's going to recruit some great people into his administration, I hoped. And, growth can solve a lot of our problems. So if we can get rid of a bunch of regulations that are holding back the country.
This is oligarch Bill Ackman.
Obviously, in a better economy, let's talk, it's a CNBC. Let's talk a little bit about the economics of the next candidate. I mean, Trump is the only candidate that's talked about accelerating the growth of the country. And the only way we're going to dig ourselves out of $36 trillion worth of liabilities is through growth. And actually, let's talk about team for a moment, because it's not really Trump versus Harris. It's the Trump team versus the Harris team, right? So what have we seen? So Trump's picked J.D. Vance as his vice president. Kamala has picked Walz. Walz is a self-described knucklehead, right? I can't imagine a world in which this guy is president of the United States. And you have to look at the vice president as a potential president of the United States. So that's, right. If I line them up, you've got a guy who grew up in a very, very challenged environment, addiction, family, rural America, makes his way to Yale, armed forces. Now he's, venture capitalist, senator, extremely articulate, obviously highly intelligent. So you compare and contrast. You have Elon Musk, who's probably one of the most consequential, certainly consequential business leaders 100%. In the world. It's proven he can take on 12 things at the same time and
Mark Cuban
and change the world. Okay, who's going to take? He's put himself out here in this election. And first, the only one talking about government efficiency, right? And Trump's all in. By the way, RFK, okay? Right. RFK is a highly intelligent, capable person, and he's focused on a couple of issues that mean a lot to me.
Not only is he a huge supporter of Republican President Donald Trump, but he also speaks glowingly of brainworm HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Elon Musk, a man who has shown to be in support of modern-day Nazism.
Bill Ackman, on October 8th, wakes up and is like, oh my God, there's all these Palestinian groups that are saying abhorrent and awful things. I should help to cancel them and make sure that they can never get a job. This morphs into, after the Harvard hearing before Congress, an effort to get Claudine Gay, the president of Harvard, fired. Eventually then morphs into plagiarism accusations against Claudine Gay, in which she retires. But remember, he didn't actually care about plagiarism. He cared about getting this woman fired over quote-unquote anti-Semitism concerns. Well, Harvard has now heeded the call, and they've created a quote anti-Semitism task force. But now, let's put this up there. This is pretty amazing. Bill Ackman and Larry Summers, former president of Harvard, are now decrying the choice of Derek J. Penzler, who is a professor of Jewish history and is Jewish himself, as the leader of an anti-Semitism task force. Will you guess why, Ryan? Because, quote, he helped to lead a panel which had signed a letter that was critical of Israel, describing it as a regime of apartheid for its treatment of Palestinians. Now, this is very, very important here, because what they are saying is that this man, who is a Jew, a professor of Jewish history, and who is leading the anti-Semitism task force himself, is not a proper person to lead the anti-Semitism task force because he has been critical of Israel. Okay, so not that he's anti-Semitic himself, but they are saying that criticism of Israel equals anti-Semitism. That gives the whole game away, doesn't it?
Israel is a country. Israel is a country with policies. Criticizing those policies does not make you anti-Semitic.
Exactly. But to Ackman,
Bill Ackman, he has a trophy wife. This really vivacious, beautiful Israeli woman. And she's a former Israeli pilot. And so you can imagine her saying, to Ackman, do this and do that. And he's a complete thug. It's really quite astonishing. This guy, they're so arrogant, the rich. sometimes you could have a rich person who has some humility. He takes upon himself, he has the right to decide who's going to be the president of Harvard. He's going to decide. Christine Gay has to go. They get rid of her. The arrogance. Academic freedom has been completely destroyed. They just use their leverage with the money. In my day, the notion was college was supposed to make you feel uncomfortable. It's supposed to challenge your most deeply held convictions. That was the whole point of college, or what was said to be the whole point of a liberal arts education. To challenge your beliefs and to make you feel uncomfortable in those beliefs. And now uncomfortable became a standard for suppressing speech.
Norman Finkelstein is spot on in his analysis of Ackman as well. In sports, Bill Ackman used his vast wealth, which CNN estimates to be near $10 billion, to buy his way into a professional tennis tournament. I reiterate, a professional tennis match. He is 59. So ridiculous. Thus, it was no shock whatsoever when the end result was posted. He and retired professional Jack Sock, who is also now a podcaster and pickleball player, well, they got trounced in straight sets to a pair of journeyman players, although Bernard Tomic is solid. Ackman played pretend for a day simply because of his wealth.
Bill Ackman, who's been a massive tennis fan supporter, funds the PTPA, does the whole thing, wanted to play a pro tournament. So, there was obviously some exchange of something. Like, you don't give a wild card to someone who 50 players at my club are better than. I'm honored to be part of the Hall of Fame. I have great relationships with people at the Hall of Fame. And also, you can disagree with people that you have a good relationship with. This was a total miss. Now, the job of the Hall of Fame is to preserve and celebrate excellence in our sport. This was the biggest joke I've ever watched in professional tennis. Even Tomic was he'd have a sitter. He was serving 50 miles an hour to someone. He'd have a sitter and he would play it softly. Like, if there is any sort of review process in tennis, like, it's weird to take a look at someone when, but if the letter of the law is I remember Kyrgios got fined for tanking one year because it's like, if it's obviously less than your best effort, apparently that qualifies. This match is going to be under review. It has to be. American
tennis legend Andy Roddick was furious at what he saw, along with fellow legend in the sport, Martina Navratilova, who posted on social media of the oligarch Ackman. Apparently, you can buy yourself a wild card. Oh, to have the confidence. She quote tweeted above an important point from sports journalist John Wertheim. Note, too, that this guy who took a legitimate player's draw spot is helping bankroll the PTPA, which just filed a federal suit that in part seeks more earning opportunities for players. This would have been fine for a pro-am, for a sanctioned event with points and prizes. It was at best wildly inappropriate and lacking in integrity. Then there was journalist and tennis fan Glenn Greenwald, who echoed many of our critiques, saying Ackman used his wealth to worm his way into a professional ATP-sanctioned tennis tournament at the Hall of Fame at the age of 59. It'd be as if Bill Gates got the Seattle Mariners to let him be a starting pitcher for their AAA team. He called Ackman's appearance pathetic ego stroking. And guess what? He's right. Even tennis fans despised it. Another mega billionaire living out his own private dream, said Lydia Chambers of New Vernon, New Jersey, who had to painfully take in the Ackman match. I hope he's making a huge donation. The match would last just over an hour. Many in the crowd were angered with what they had to witness. Dan Wolken of USA Today would add, "This isn't a golf pro-am, it's the real thing. And as long as we have pro sports, you'd like them to be played by professionals and not exist for the whims of potential benefactors who have a ton of money and a delusion about how good they are at playing tennis. It's a bad look, and it certainly does not help the image of a sport that does not necessarily deserve its country club reputation. So let's be clear. Apparently, the oligarchs can pay their way to becoming astronauts and athletes. This timeline sucks. Hey, I appreciate you watching. Now, if you can, please do become a channel member by going to youtube.com/TYT Sports and clicking the join button. If that's too much for you, you can just go to tyt.com/join to become a member. It helps all of us out here at the Young Turks and keeps our network afloat. In addition, you could follow me on my socials on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Appreciate the love. Have a great day.